In the late 1960s, Northern California was gripped by a new kind of terror. The streets of San Francisco, once alive with music and protest, now seemed to echo with a different kind of tension, a sense that something sinister was lurking just out of sight. Amidst the peace and love, a shadow crept in, a killer who craved attention as much as blood. The city's vibrant counterculture, filled with hope and rebellion, was suddenly pierced by fear, as rumors of a faceless predator began to spread. He struck young couples in secluded spots, vanishing into the night, leaving fear in his wake. Lovers' lanes, once places of romance and escape, became scenes of horror, their silence shattered by violence. But his violence was only the beginning. The city's anxiety grew with each new headline, each whispered story of another attack. People began to look over their shoulders, locking doors that had once been left open. He wanted the world to know his name, the Zodiac. He didn't just kill, he demanded to be seen, to be feared, to be remembered. Through letters, ciphers, and threats, he made sure no one would forget him. His taunting notes, filled with cryptic symbols and chilling boasts, arrived at newsrooms and police stations, each one deepening the mystery and the dread. The Bay Area was paralyzed by fear, lovers' lanes became places of dread. Police patrols increased, but the sense of safety was gone, replaced by a collective anxiety that seeped into every corner of the city. The Zodiac's true weapon was uncertainty. He could be anyone, anywhere. The idea that the killer might be a neighbor, a co-worker, or a stranger passing by haunted the public imagination. He taunted police and press, orchestrating a media frenzy that turned his crimes into a twisted spectacle. Newspapers raced to print his latest threats, and television anchors delivered updates with trembling voices. Then, as suddenly as he appeared, he faded away. The letters stopped, the killing ceased, the mystery deepened. Investigators were left with only fragments, clues that led nowhere, and a trail that grew colder with each passing year. Was he dead, imprisoned, or simply watching from the shadows? Theories multiplied, but answers remained elusive, fueling decades of speculation and fear. The Zodiac was never caught, never unmasked. His identity became one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries, a puzzle that taunted both law enforcement and amateur sleuths. He remains a ghost in American crime, a chilling reminder that some monsters are never found. The fog that rolls over the bay each night seems to carry his legend, whispering it through the city streets. His legend endures, haunting investigators and the public alike. Each new theory, each fresh clue, only adds to the obsession and the myth. The fear he created lingers, a legacy of unanswered questions. Families who lived through those years still remember the unease, the way the Zodiac's shadow seemed to stretch over every home. The Zodiac's story is not just about murder, but about the power of terror. He showed how fear could ripple through a community, changing lives and shaping history. He showed that one person could hold a city hostage with fear alone. The Zodiac's reign was brief, but its impact was lasting, a dark chapter that still casts a long shadow. And in the end, he left behind only a name, a symbol, and a mystery that refuses to die. The Zodiac's story is a chilling testament to the enduring power of the unknown. The late 1960s in California was a time of revolution and hope, a place where dreams seemed possible and the future felt bright. The air was thick with the energy of change, civil rights marches, anti-war protests, and a youth culture determined to reshape the world. California's sunlit streets and vibrant neighborhoods became symbols of possibility, drawing people from across the country in search of a better life. But beneath the surface, darkness grew, quietly threading its way through the optimism of the era. In the shadows, something sinister was taking root, unnoticed by most. The Zodiac emerged from this landscape, shattering the illusion of safety in quiet Bay Area communities. Suddenly, the familiar became frightening, and the ordinary was tinged with dread. He was a faceless terror, no one knew his appearance or motives. He seemed to slip through the fog, leaving only questions and fear in his wake. Survivors gave conflicting descriptions, fueling confusion and fear. Each new account only deepened the mystery, making it impossible to know who to trust or what to believe. He targeted young couples, symbols of innocence in the future, attacking them in their cars on lonely roads. These were places where people once felt safe, now transformed into scenes of terror. The fear felt personal, as if he was attacking the very fabric of society. Every family, every neighbor began to look over their shoulder, wondering if the next victim would be someone they knew. The Zodiac didn't just kill, he destroyed the sense of security families relied on. The comfort of home was replaced by anxiety, and the laughter of children was muffled by the weight of fear. He became a modern bogeyman, a real-life monster haunting the public imagination. His name was whispered in schoolyards and around dinner tables, a chilling reminder that evil could strike anywhere. His crimes hijacked the headlines and the minds of millions. Every new letter, every cryptic message sent shockwaves through the community, keeping the public on edge. Even as the era's vibrant colors faded, his dark legacy endured. The city's spirit was tested and the scars of his terror would linger for decades. The Zodiac was a product of his time, yet stood apart. A symbol of the darkness lurking beneath even the brightest moments. He forced a reckoning with the reality that evil can exist anywhere, even in the most hopeful of places. He forced the world to confront the reality that evil can hide in plain sight, forever changing the way a generation saw their world. The Zodiac's terror wasn't limited to violence, he waged psychological warfare through the mail. His letters, sent to major newspapers, were filled with taunts, threats, and chilling details only the killer could know. He demanded front-page publication, threatening more violence if ignored. His symbol, a crossed circle, became infamous, his signature of fear. He mocked police, boasted of his intellect, and claimed his victims would serve him in the afterlife. The Zodiac's ciphers turned his crimes into a public puzzle, daring everyone to solve his secrets. He threatened schoolchildren, bombings, and mass murder, keeping the region on edge. Most threats never materialized, but the fear was real. Police diverted resources, the public stayed anxious, and the Zodiac controlled the narrative. His letters and ciphers made everyone a participant in his twisted game. The Bay Area was held hostage, not just by violence but by the terror of the unknown. The Zodiac's confirmed victims number 5, though he claimed many more. His spree began in December 1968. David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen shot on their first date. 7 months later, Darlene Ferrin was killed and Michael Mageau wounded at Blue Rock Springs. The killer called police himself, calmly taking credit. In September 1969, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were attacked at Lake Berryessa. He wore a hood, tied them up, and stabbed them. Cecilia died. Brian survived to tell the tale. 2 weeks later, cab driver Paul Stein was murdered in San Francisco, the killer taking a bloody trophy as proof. The Zodiac's attacks grew bolder, moving from rural lovers' lanes to the heart of the city. Each crime left a community shattered, and a legend growing ever darker. The Zodiac's ciphers were psychological weapons, elevating him from killer to criminal mastermind. By sending coded messages, he challenged the public and police, demanding attention and respect through fear. The first cipher, published in 1969, sparked a nationwide obsession. A high school teacher and his wife cracked it, revealing a chilling confession, but no name. The media became his stage, amplifying his myth and spreading terror. Some ciphers remained unsolved for decades, deepening the enigma. The Z340 cipher wasn't cracked until 2020, revealing more taunts. The puzzles kept the Zodiac in the public eye long after the murders stopped. He ensured his legacy would endure not just as a killer, but as an unsolved riddle. The Zodiac's greatest triumph was making the world his audience, and his accomplice. The Zodiac delighted in mocking the police, casting them as bumbling players in his twisted drama. He seemed to thrive on their confusion, orchestrating a deadly game of cat and mouse that left investigators perpetually on the back foot. Each new crime scene was not just a place of violence, but a stage for his taunts and riddles. He called in his crimes, calmly reporting details only he could know, a direct challenge to law enforcement. These calls weren't just confessions, they were invitations to a contest of wits, daring the police to catch up. The chilling composure in his voice only deepened the sense of menace, as if he relished the fear he inspired. His phone calls and letters were tools for taunting, each one a reminder of his control. The cryptic ciphers and mocking notes he sent to newspapers and police stations became infamous, sparking public fascination and frustration in equal measure. Every message was a puzzle, a test, and a threat. The Lake Berryessa attack saw him don a hooded costume, transforming himself into a living symbol of terror. This theatrical display was more than a disguise, it was a declaration that he was in control, able to reinvent himself at will and strike fear into the hearts of an entire region. He became more than a man, he became a myth. The foggy landscapes of Northern California seemed to echo with his presence, and every shadow could be hiding the Zodiac. His legend grew with each unsolved crime, each unanswered riddle. Even police mistakes became fodder for his ridicule, as when officers let him slip away after the Paul Stein murder. The Zodiac seized every opportunity to highlight their failures, turning their missteps into part of his ongoing spectacle. In his letters, he gleefully recounted these near misses, further humiliating the authorities. He seemed to take special pleasure in reminding them how close they had come, only to be outsmarted once again. The Zodiac's true crime was not just murder, but the creation of a legend that made the police look powerless. He manipulated the media and the public, ensuring his story would outlive his crimes and haunt the city for decades. He turned every encounter into a story, every taunt into a headline. The newspapers became his unwitting accomplices, spreading his myth far and wide, and fueling the public's obsession with his identity. In the end, he was always one step ahead, at least in the public's imagination. The Zodiac's game was never just about murder, it was about power, fear, and the enduring mystery he left behind. The hunt for the Zodiac's identity has obsessed investigators and amateurs for decades. Arthur Lee Allen, a Vallejo teacher with a dark past, remains the most discussed suspect, but evidence never matched. Journalist Richard Gaikowski was another contender, his work and voice fitting some clues but nothing conclusive. Some theorize the Zodiac was more than one person, explaining conflicting descriptions and methods. Others point to obscure figures, each with tantalizing but incomplete evidence. For every clue, there's a contradiction. For every theory, a dead end. The Zodiac may have planted false leads, deepening the mystery. His identity remains a haunting enigma, less a question to solve, more a myth that endures. After years of terror, the Zodiac's letters abruptly stopped in 1974. The killings had already ceased, leaving only silence and speculation. Did he die, get imprisoned, or simply decide his work was done? Some believe he continued killing, just without the fanfare. Others think he watched from the shadows, satisfied with the chaos he'd sown. His disappearance became his final taunt, denying closure to police, victims, and the public. The story ended with a question mark, the ultimate unsolved puzzle. The Zodiac's silence cemented his legend as the phantom who vanished into the fog. We're left with only echoes of his crimes and a mystery that refuses to die. Who was the Zodiac? The world may never know.